Hey everybody, thank you for joining me today. So today's video, we're going to be working on our fourth stencil. This one is going to be fun. So we're going back to the new Sizzix platform system, which is designed to help you line up your stencils and your stamps so that way you can get better lining up, and it's just a really good all around, like, how can I explain it? I love this idea with the stencils very much. So I have my paper down and I know where I want my stencil to hit. And so I just want to show you. So this extender piece allows your stencil to hook to it and it doesn't move, right? It's right there. But I can also see, like right now, I had too much stuff in front. It wasn't allowing it to lay flat so that way you guys could see it and I could be in frame. So what I'm going to wind up doing is once I find my spot, then if I need to adjust anything, I'll just adjust the cardstock underneath. So I'm just going to adjust a little bit. All right. And so we have our skyline that we're going to use. And then I'm going to take some, it's not tumbled glass. And I'm just going to go right along the bottom, but I'm also going to lift it up a little bit because I don't want a really strong line there. I want it to look more blendy. When I did it the first time, which you'll see in the card when I bring it over, it created a really harsh line. And so by lifting it up and doing underneath, it stops that. Next, we're going to go to Broken China. And then we're using our sponge daubers. And then the next color we're going to use is Charted Mariner. All right. And then we'll color in the very top part. Now with this one, I'm using the tiny blender. Actually, I take that back. I'm sorry. The tiny blender is the one in the middle. Everything's gonna be all right. I just love the colors of the blues. And then I'm gonna grab Broken China. And then at the very bottom here, you see how I have that line again? I'm just gonna go over and then I'm gonna grab the middle color again. And we're just going to keep doing that until we get the blend exactly the way that we want. Because we don't want it to look like I said, like, here's one color, here's one color. That's the purpose of kind of getting these blues that work well together. Now I'm going to take the stamp and line it up to the outline of the stencil. Now, what I did find interesting is on the first one, I was slightly off. So when I went to do this one, I was like, well, let me move the stamp itself up a little bit. So hopefully it would line up with all the elements better. So I'm going to take the lid off, or no, not off. I'm sorry. I'm just going to lean it back and ink up real quick with my Versaclear and then go ahead and press down using my Pink Fresh tool. And then we're going to ink it up again and stamp down one more time. And really, any stamp tool that you have, that's the benefit of it, is knowing that you can stamp more than once. And if you had any area where you didn't stamp correctly, you get a nice, clean, crisp line because you're able to go right back to the same spot. So now I'm just going to clean up this real quick, because the next element we want to do is we're going to grab Santa with the sleigh and the reindeer and the moon shape. It's all from the same stamp collection. And we're going to go ahead and put those down with the black ink. And this one, I was really surprised because normally especially with the black, I like to do more than one stamp because I want to make sure it's nice and fully covered. But this first stamp, it did great. I was like, awesome. I had good pressure. So we don't have to stamp that again. And then there's another stamp that has like stars on it. So for this particular set, I knew I wanted to do some embossing. Okay. So excuse me, I am treating my paper, and then I'm going to lay down the stamp set, the stars. One side is kind of sticking up a little bit. It got squashed. I don't even know how it got squashed, but eventually it will lay back down. All right, and then we're going to press that, and then we'll move that over and stamp some on the other side. And there's spaces in between, so I make sure to put that over top of the Santa and the sleigh, so that way there's stars on like either side, because you're basically just like trying to put some stars in the night sky, right? But you want it to appear kind of random. You don't want it to be too uniformed. And then we're going to do one more, just a little bit of stars up at the top. Some of this might get cut off, but it's okay. I'd rather have it get cut off than not have anything, and it looks weird. So now that we did all that, we're going to grab our platinum embossing powder, and we're going to sprinkle it all over the top where our stars are. And if any of it gets on the moon or the Santa sleigh, I'm just going to take my brush and clear the areas where I don't want there to be any platinum. And then I also kind of like blow it to help release anything extra. And there was one star that looked like it just needed a little bit more color, so that's what I was doing there. And now we're just going to heat up all of our stars. And then after we heat up the star, we're going to do our sentiment. Now, the cool thing about that stencil that we used, at the bottom of it, there are a few greetings that you can actually use the stencil for. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to line up, and I'm sorry, I didn't realize this was kind of off camera, but I'm lining up where I want my sentiment. Okay, and then I'm going to take the double-sided tape and cover up the top edge, and that way I make sure, there's no random or weird Versamark ink on the card that I don't want it to be. So I'm just pressing down and smushing, so that way that ink gets through the part of the stencil itself, because it's literally like the cursive words, and you just want to make sure you're definitely getting full coverage. Once it's done, I'm just laying down the platinum right along the sentiment, and you can see it come alive. And it's not the clearest thing. Like, you can tell that word is supposed to be Christmas, but it is a little bit thick, because I guess with pushing the ink through the stencil, but it's okay. I'm not mad at it, and I think it'll still make for a pretty card. Okay, so we're going to get ready to move everything. Then we're going to heat up our Happy Christmas to all, or no, not happy. I said happy. Merry Christmas to all. All right, now let's move this, because now we're going to do some trimming. I'm going to trim this down. I'd like to create at least like 1/8 of an inch around the border. And usually if I'm only cutting off on one side, then I'll do 1/4 inch. And then on the other side, on where the houses are, I'm just doing 1/8 of an inch on both sides, which will equal to 1/4 inch. Because sometimes you can take it all on one side. Sometimes you got to divide it. All right. So now that I trimmed that down, it came to my mind that maybe I should try something else. So I just took the Versamark ink pad all around the edge. And what I'm doing right now is just putting embossing powder all along the edge. So that way it's going to create a platinum line going around all 4 corners. And I'll be able to bring it more into the screen so you can see it better. And then, so I use the ink pad kind of like I would like a distress ink. And then we're just doing each corner, making sure that it's all melted. And that'll give a separation from the card base to this piece that we're putting on without having to add more paper. So just by doing that little bit of extra platinum, I think you're going to like it. And you can control how much you put. I did very little line. You can always go bigger if you want. It all depends on what you're designing. All right, so now that's glued down. And we're going to bring the other one over and go ahead and get that one attached as well. And then once these are attached, we're going to pull out our sprays for some splatters. So we're just going to, I was using the pen to clear out the glue gun. And then once we get the glue on the back of this one, we're going to go ahead and get this laid down. And then I believe I do black and the spritz in the weathered wood. So let's see. I'm shaking it right now. Yes, this one is, I think this one is the spritz if I'm not mistaken. And then in front is the black, which I'm going to wind up grabbing. And again, just like last week's card, I feel like, oh no, I did grab a little bit of white. And I only did the white on the part where obviously we colored in the blue houses for the most part. The paper that I use does have a slight yellow tint to it. So you could do the pure white on top in splatters. But I really wanted it for the ink blending section. The white on colored paper is really pretty. And there you have it. There's our layouts. How exciting. Not layouts, our cards. Duh. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you have any comments or questions, just leave them down below. And I'll make sure to respond and get those answers to you. And again, I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I will see you next week with our next video.